Hey everyone, ready to go deep on Colossians? We're going to unpack some seriously profound stuff today, exploring its core message and how it still speaks to us now.
I know, right? It's amazing how relevant it still is.
Seriously. Okay, so we've got these excerpts, you're really getting to the heart of Colossians, and one thing that jumps out is this constant emphasis on Christ's supremacy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's the bedrock, the foundation for everything else in the book.
It really is. It's like the starting point, you know?
Totally. So, what are your thoughts on that? How does Colossians portray that idea of Christ's supremacy?
Well, you see it right from the beginning, like in Colossians 1:15-17, it says, Christ is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation.
Whoa. Oh,
Right. And it goes on, by him all things were created. So it's not just about like our personal relationship with
it's
Christ.
cosmic.
It's cosmic. It's this radical claim that he's preeminent in everything, the entire universe.
Oh, that's a big statement.
It is. And Colossians keeps going deeper with it, saying, he is before all things, and in him, all things hold together. It's like this cosmic glue,
Yeah.
this unifying force that connects everything.
It's like the framework of reality itself, almost.
Yeah, exactly. And it really makes you rethink how we view our place in the world,
Mhm.
in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. And then Colossians takes it even further, talking about reconciliation with God through Christ.
Right, that's huge.
Like that broken relationship we had because of sin, it's mended through him.
Totally. It's like Colossians saying, look, because of Christ's supremacy, because of his role in everything, we can be made right with God.
It all comes back to that.
It does. And that leads into another big theme that comes up in the excerpts, the fullness of Christ.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right. It's like Colossians keeps saying, look, everything you're searching for, all the answers, the purpose, it's all found in him.
So what does that actually mean? Like, practically speaking, what does that fullness dwelling in Christ look like?
Well, it's this idea that Christ isn't just a part of our lives. He is the complete source of everything we need for spiritual growth, for true fulfillment, for everything.
It's like he's not just a piece of the puzzle, he's the whole picture.
Exactly.
Mm.
And I think it's important to remember that this isn't just some like mystical concept.
Right,
It has real world implications.
for sure. So how does that fullness actually play out in our everyday lives?
Well, Colossians 3:1-14 gives us some concrete examples. It talks about putting on compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. These aren't just abstract virtues, they're active choices we make every single day.
Yeah, so it's not just about knowing the truth, it's about actually living it out.
Exactly. And that's where the rubber meets the road. Because it's one thing to say, yeah, Christ is supreme, but it's another thing to actually let that truth shape how we treat others, how we respond to challenges, how we approach every aspect of our lives.
And let's be honest, it's not always easy, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. Especially with all the distractions and pressures in our modern world.
Right, it's like there's always something trying to pull our attention away from that fullness we were just talking about.
And that's probably why Colossians spends so much time addressing the threat of false teachings.
That's true. There's a lot about that in the book, isn't there?
Yeah, it's interesting how even back then, there were these alternative ideas floating around trying to dilute the core message of the gospel.
Like distractions almost.
Totally, like trying to pull people away from that true source of fullness in Christ.
So what kind of drama was Colossians dealing with? What were these false teachings all about?
Well, Colossians 2:8 warns against being taken captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition.
Interesting.
This suggests there were teachings based on human reasoning rather than the truth revealed in Christ.
So it's not just about rejecting, obviously, bad ideas. It's about making sure our beliefs are rooted in the right source, in Christ himself.
Precisely. And that's where discernment comes in. Colossians encourages us to test everything, to hold fast to what is good, to be grounded in our faith so we aren't swayed by every wind of doctrine.
Which is super relevant today, too, right? I mean, think about all the different voices and messages we encounter every day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's everywhere.
Even within the Christian faith itself, there are so many different interpretations and perspectives.
It's true. So the question becomes, how do we sift through it all? How do we make sure we're not getting pulled off course by all these competing voices?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. But I think Colossians gives us a framework. If we keep the supremacy of Christ at the forefront, if we're actively seeking that fullness in him,
We'll be more grounded.
we'll be more grounded, less susceptible to those distractions. It's like having a strong anchor in a storm.
That's a really helpful analogy. But
Hmm.
what about those times when we're struggling, you know? What if someone is wrestling with doubt or feeling disconnected from their faith? How does Colossians speak to that?
That's where the practical instructions for Christian living become so important.
The nitty-gritty everyday stuff.
Exactly. Things like putting off anger and bitterness, embracing forgiveness, being generous and hospitable. These are all tangible actions we can take, even when we don't feel particularly spiritual.
It's like putting our faith into action even when our feelings are all over the place.
Exactly. And often it's through those actions that our faith becomes more real, more tangible. It's not just a head knowledge thing, it's about living it out.
I love that. It's like faith in motion.
It is. So, even if we're doubting or feeling lost, we can still choose to act in ways that are consistent with our beliefs. And often that's what brings us back to that place of connection with God.
That makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
So looking back at everything we've discussed, what do you see as the most important takeaways from Colossians? What really resonated with you personally?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think for me, it's the reminder that Christ is the answer, the complete answer to everything.
Not just part of the solution?
Not just a part, but the whole thing. And that truth should shape every aspect of our lives, from our relationships to our choices to how we see the world around us.
It's like a lens through which we view everything.
Exactly. And I think if we can really grasp that, if we can let that truth sink in, it changes everything.
That's powerful. And to leave you with something to ponder, how might these themes of Colossians, Christ's supremacy, finding fullness in him, and living out our faith authentically impact your own journey of faith and how you approach your daily life?
That's a great question, something worth reflecting on for sure.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Colossians. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. Until next time.